Hello and welcome to the Honest Business Podcast. I hope you are very well. Today we're talking about something I've never spoken about. I never really touch on this. We haven't on the podcast. I don't talk about it a lot on other platforms, but it is something that I wanted to share because I think it's so immensely powerful and I think it's just an interesting conversation for us to have. So if you're coming into this skeptical, maybe you're coming into this thinking, I don't know why May's talking about this. Like May is like strategy and she's all very like to the point and very practical. Why is she talking about this? I just want you to invite you to open your mind up just for the duration of this podcast and just think about like what might come from this. Like have an open mind because we're going to talk about how I manifest things in my life and my business and just going to talk briefly about kind of like manifestation really. And I think this is a topic that is got such a different opinion on. Yeah, some people hate it and think it's horrendous. Other people are like absolute masters. And I have friends and clients who are absolute like the stuff that they do in their life through manifestation is just like mind blowing. Like it is wild. And then there's people that sit on the spectrum of the whole thing. And I think a lot of people in recent years have really moved towards understanding manifestation and being a concept and being something that people talk about. So I think it's an interesting one. It's something that I'm very open to myself and it's something that I've definitely had a journey with. And I'm still very much in the midst of learning and moving through it. So this is not me sat here saying I'm a manifestation expert. It's not me saying that I'm some kind of like goddess about it. I am totally, totally not at all. Right. But this is me coming at it from my personal perspective to share with you in case it sparks something in you and also to say to you that it's absolutely real. And I hope that if like you know me, like you know I'm so skeptical of stuff. Like I'm the most skeptical person in the sense of like I would be the first person to be like, no, it's a load of shit. However, it isn't. Like I can't stress enough to you. Manifestation is not a load of rubbish. It is not fake. It's not real. Like it's so real. And I don't know, I just feel like people need to know about that. And I know my friends and my peers and my colleagues who are really in this space and are experts in it also are so huge on educating people on it. But sometimes I think hearing it from someone who maybe is not in it is helpful, i.e., me, who's just like a random person who's sort of sharing their experience. So that's what we're going to talk about. Have a listen. If it's for you, great. If it isn't, then no bother. But I think there's some real magic in here. And I think there's some real like it doesn't necessarily all have to make sense, but it's there and it's present. So maybe this is like the no bullshit version of manifesting or kind of my experience of it. I have no clue whether I'm doing it right. I have no clue whether, it's, I don't know, but I'm just sharing. So just as the thing on here, most of the time I talk to you from like an expert opinion or from a real professional lens. Today, I'm not saying that I necessarily am like the expert on this. However, I have manifested things in my life and my business, and it's been really fascinating. And some of them are just like mind blown to me, and some of them are just like, oh my goodness. And often I don't realize the manifestations until after the fact. So I'm not someone who like wakes up every day and it's like, right, what am I going to manifest today? Although I feel like I'm going to lean into that and I'm tempted to try that, but I'm not there yet. So I'm not someone who's thinking about like, what am I manifesting today? And like, what am I like making happen? That's not necessarily me. But I really like long-term manifestation, and that's something that I think I am really good at. Short-term, I'm not so good at, and I think that's something where there's a lot of room for me to grow, and I'm quite excited to dive into that. But long-term, I am really good at. So like I would say that so like I kind of attribute so much of the life I live now to the fact I manifested it. Did I do lots of work to get there? Yes. Do I believe that manifestation is the idea of you creating a vision in your head, visualization, and then doing the work to get there? 100%. That to me is what manifestation is. I don't necessarily believe that manifestation is just sat there thinking, oh, this is going to happen and I'm going to wake up on a yacht tomorrow and that's all going to be great. Like, I just don't believe that that's how it works. I use manifestation as like this process of like, how do I get from one physical being in one place in my life to another place that I want to be? And I have done that numerous times and it is bloody insane. Like it's amazing. And I really look at it from like a long-term perspective. So for example, like, and do I want to share this or not? I'm going to share it. I'm not going to share the story behind it. Maybe we'll share the story one day. But like, for example, I think that I manifested my soon to be husband, which seems mad saying that out loud. As someone who like way back when was like, what on earth is this manifesting thing? Like, I don't know. Basically, I manifested him before I knew what manifesting was what I'm trying to say. But then only now do I realize, like, that's what I was doing and I was manifesting. I just didn't actively realize it. And the story is a bit wild in terms of how that came about. But like, I 100% believe that I manifested him over years and years, right? Like, it wasn't just to like one day I'm going to find someone and that's going to be my person, like for years and years and years. And I think that's so interesting of like how that can happen. There's certain other things like my business, certain people I work with in my business, certain prices that I charge, certain projects that we've done. Like, I've literally manifested them. And it blows my mind. And when I say that, I guess that you might, if you're not into this, you might be like, I don't understand what she's saying. Like, what have you actually done? Because some of you might be like, but you've done the work and you've planned the project and you've made it happen. And whilst I agree, like, yes, that did happen, I think for me, manifestation is really about holding the vision, holding the kind of long-term understanding that something's going to happen, even if you don't know how. And I have that today. So there's certain things in my life that I haven't achieved yet that I just know is going to happen. And again, some of you can be like, well, fine, great, enjoy it. Like, you don't know if it is going to or not. And I agree. But there's just this weird calmness inside of you when you manifest and you know you can manifest. There's like this weird thing where I'm just like, oh, that'll just happen. Like, I know that that's going to happen at some point. It might not happen when I want to, and I might not be able to decide when it happens. And that's something that I haven't figured out. Like, some of the people I know of who are fantastic manifestors, they literally can like decide when something is going to happen and they like make it happen in a short bit of time. I'm not there yet, and I might never be, but I'm definitely at a point where I'm like, I just trust that it's going to happen, and I know that I will position myself and my energy and my work to ensure that that will happen. And I think the way that I managed to reason in my head that it wasn't just hard work and that it wasn't, that it is real, is that some stuff's just unexplained. For example, like, if you meet someone, it's like, well, what's the serendipity moment of like you meet someone who then leads you to being your best client or is then a long-term friend, or like there's certain things in my life that there just isn't necessarily a like fully formed reason as to why. Like, you can't just say that 100% of it was down to hard work, in my opinion. And so that's where I kind of lean on and say, oh, there's something about manifestation, there's something about it that works. So I thought I'd just talk you through how I manifest. Again, I have no clue whether this is the right thing to be doing, but this is what I do and it really works. First up is I decide what it is that I want. And I do this frequently. So like, I'm doing this on a yearly basis, I'm doing this on a quarterly basis, I'm doing this on a monthly basis. And then I'm often doing it just like sporadically, like, throughout a month, there might be just moments where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to have a think about like, what do I want X, Y, and Z thing to be? So I take time and I have real centered time of like, what is it that I'm trying to call into my life? What is it that I haven't yet got? What is it that I want to change? What is there that is not quite there yet? And I really sit in that. Like, I get a piece of paper and I like write everything down and I get really clear on like, what is it? And I'm talking like, I'll try and find pictures or I'll try and understand the detail. Like, it can't just be, you want a dream car. It needs to be, what car is it? What color? What size engine? How much is it? Where are you going to buy it from? Like, what's the day going to be like when you actually go and pick it up? Like, it needs to be that specific, in my opinion. So I get like really clear on what is it that I want. And then I do this process of like, okay, imagining that I already have it and walk myself through that process of that being a case, like being the case. And then I sit in that energy. And then I kind of do this like visualization reflection piece where I'm sort of like, sometimes I'll close my eyes, sometimes I won't, sometimes I might put like some kind of, I don't know, like subliminal track thing on, or you can just go on YouTube and type in like manifestation things, or you can type in frequencies and like you can listen to something, but you don't have to. And then I just really sit and center myself in like, what is my day-to-day going to look like at the point in which that thing's happened? So whether it's a product you want or whether it's something in your life, like a change in your life. But I think if you use a product, it can kind of be easier if you're trying to explain it. So let's just say the dream car thing. And then I sit and I really think about like, what is my life going to be like with that thing? How does it change? What does it mean for when I go to the supermarket every week? Or what is it specifically about the item that I'm looking forward to? And I get very specific and I get very clear. And I just like sit in that energy. And it can be an uncomfortable energy. It can be an excited energy. It can be a bit like, I don't have a clue what this energy is. But you're sort of sat there in this energy. I then write about it. So, like, especially if it's something I really want. Not every single manifestation I've done this, by the way. Some of the things I've just like, it's just happened because I've been thinking about them and like vision board on them. But if there's something I really want, I'll then like write it and start scripting about like, what is it about the whole thing that I've just been thinking about? And then I kind of just then forget about it. And I think this is the piece that you've got to really do. So I do this whole piece of work, get all G'd up about it, like, yeah, great. And then I sit in this, I switch to this energy of just like trust. And I sit in this thing of like, this is going to work. Like, this is going to happen. This is coming to me. I'm doing the work every day for that to happen. I'm going to actively look for opportunities that would help push me to being able to do that thing. And that's similar to the yellow car theory, right? You know, if you're like, right, I'm going to start looking for yellow cars, and you see yellow cars everywhere. So there's elements of it where it's just like, it just works. So you sort of thinking, okay, I'm going to actively think about that. But then I also then switch to just dropping the energy completely, and you just sit in this kind of like detachment, I suppose is what you would call it, where you just sort of give in and you just sort of like let it go. Let it go is probably a good word. Like, you let it go and then you just carry on with your life. And then you check in with it. And I would say, you know, at the beginning stages of my business, I would check in with my goals every single day. And I'm talking like I'd write them out. I would have them on a piece of paper and I would write them multiple times a day. And I was very clear. Now I am not at that point, because now I've kind of moved to a certain different point in my life. And so, and I definitely will go back to that at some point when I'm in a different stage of my life. But right now I'm not in that stage of doing that. But I am at the point where I will then just check in. And I'll be like, okay, what did we put in January as like the vision board? And what did you create? And what do you, like, is that still aligned? Is it not? Do you want to change it? Something I would really recommend is this whole vision board thing. So I know people go on about it, and you've probably done a vision board. I think a vision board 100% works. I find them all the time from different years that I've done them, and I'm like, oh my goodness, everything on it is there. Like, it's so weird. It's so strange how like this stuff comes up. Like, all I would say is pick very carefully the imagery that you put on these boards, because I would say it's freakishly accurate and similar as to like what you put on. So don't just put something on that you're like, oh, it kind of means something. Like, make sure you pick an image that you really, really like. Vision board, I think, is so important and so helpful. Again, like being able to see that is really good, or having it on your phone, or being able to look at it. But again, you don't have to look at it. Like, I find stuff in the drawer and then I'm like, oh my god, remember when I did this? So I think there's definitely, it's flexible, there's different ways, and I think you learn yourself what is kind of like the best option for you and how it works for you. And then I just let it go and just sort of chill out a bit on it. Now, I imagine, and again, I'm not an expert, I imagine if you take it of a more daily practice and you're more focused on it and you really look at energy work, I imagine that's how you get better at the sort of shorter term stuff, because I can totally see how that would kind of snowball and you just get better and better at it. But that is kind of how I work it and what I do. And yeah, some of the things I've manifested is just wild. Like, I find it insane. I like, even like a plane ticket upgrade, or like weird things where you were just like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then like it happened. Or it's just very interesting things. Or sometimes it can be like things I'm gonna find at a shop, like if you go to TK Maxx or TJ Maxx if you're in the US, and you know how like there's just like random items and you never know what you're gonna find. I have definitely before been like, okay, I want this and this and this, and it's gonna look like this and it's gonna be like that, and I just like weirdly show up and it's there. And it's not like a thing that they'd stock all the time. It's just like a random one-off item. Like, I've got a plate that I did that with. I've got another plate actually where it was this like ginormous servant dish thing. And they're in TK Maxx. So this one was around price. Like, they're normally in there. And I think they're normally priced at about £25. And I think their RRP is like 50 or 60 or something. And I wasn't on the lookout for that plate, but I was on the lookout. I was like, oh, I fancy having like a really good bargain today. I fancy like a really nice, like, you just want to like pick me up and you're like, I want a really good bargain. And I went in and they had this giant plate in the clearance section for £4. Now I was like, hang on a minute, what? And I looked at it, because often if it's in the clearance section, it's that cheap. There's obviously something wrong with it. There's a bit missing, or it's cracked, or something's happened. There was nothing wrong with this plate. Like, literally nothing wrong. It was perfect. It was a beautiful color. It was gorgeous. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it's just a plain plate. It's not got anything on it, but it's just a lovely, large, oddly obscured plate. And it was £4. And I picked it up and I was like, great. And I was convinced that day, because I'd set out and I was like, I just want a really good book. Like, I want a, I don't know if you're an avid TK Maxx goer. In COVID, there was like insane buys all the time. Now it's kind of moved on. I think everybody knows about it, so everyone goes. But also, like, I just think the stock has just changed and it's different. So this was last year, and I was just buzzing. I was like, oh my goodness, I got this plate, and I told everyone I got home, and I was like, look at my plate, and everyone's like, what the fuck, mate? Like, it's a plate. But you know, when you get so connected to that. That for me was like a definite short-term manifestation. And again, some of you might be sat there going, well, maybe just the plate was on offer and it just was like right place, right time. 100% it could be. And I think the joy of manifestation is I think you get to choose how into it or not into it you are, or I think you get to choose which parts of it you want to align with and what you don't. And I don't think there's any right or wrong. And I don't think people should be shamed into having to do it a certain way, or, you know, you're doing it the right way and someone's doing it the wrong way. I think it's a bit of a free for all from what I can gather. But I wanted to share this episode because I think it's important for people to know that, like, it is possible and it does work. And it's not a case of like you're either amazing at it or you're not, or it's not only for the people who are like manifestation obsessed. Average normal people who are just like going about the day and are really skeptical and think, oh, is it real or is it not? Like, they are also manifesting. Like, that is me, where I'm like, this stuff is real. And I've only got to the conclusion of it being real because I've seen other people. For me, it was seeing other people. I saw what some other people did and I was like, this is insane. And I saw that over a number of years. But then also myself, I was then like, oh, okay, the more I knew about it, the more I realized I was doing it before I actually knew it was a thing. I think you can probably manifest anything. I really believe in it. I think if you're good enough at it and you're committed to it and you really buy into it, I think you probably can manifest what you want. You know, like, I think, can you manifest a yacht? Probably not. You know, if you're sat there going, I want a yacht, maybe not. But can you manifest, like, let's just say, meeting someone who then knows someone who's then going to invite you to onto a yacht? Yeah, 100%. Or, you know, it's like looking at how do you get to the thing you want to get to. If it's not an obvious, like, yes, you can totally manifest that. I think there's 100% ways of manifesting situations and bringing situations into your life that mean that this works. Now, one thing I want to say is, I think the whole of this depends on energy. Energy seems to be the thing that either makes or breaks this. That's not me saying you've got to be happy all the time. It's not me saying that, like, you've got to have this magic energy. I think there's just this element of, like, your energy work is so important, because I can definitely tell when, I don't know, if you've just got a clearer energy, you're so much more likely to do this work, and it's so much easier for you to actually, like, visualize it and actually believe it. And I think if you don't believe it, it's hard for it to happen. But if you, like, trust the process, that trust only comes from having, like, clean, amazing, excited energy, or energy that feels like good energy. It doesn't feel like negative, or it doesn't feel shameful, or it doesn't feel like lack energy. I think if you have a lack energy, I can't imagine this particularly works very well, because you're sort of, well, I suppose sort of like the law of attraction, isn't it? And all the different laws that sit under that. It's like there's so many interesting laws where you think, yeah, reciprocity exists, and if you are sort of showing up in one energy, you're probably going to attract more of that energy. So I think energy work is really crucially important. I think so much of this as well is nervous system regulation. So much of it is very practical things, and this is why I think it's hard for people now to argue that it isn't real, because this is essentially, I would say, like, manifestation is about a positive way that you've gotten your nervous system to be regulated, and then you can see beyond that and you're in emotional safety, so that you can move out of a lack position and into what you really want to achieve. So I think I think it's fascinating. I think it's so interesting. But I kind of, the whole point of doing this episode was to say, like, utilize it, like, try it, like, it doesn't have to be that you do a 30-day test to see if it's any good or not. Just, like, add it into your daily life here and there and see what comes from it. I definitely feel like mine's been a journey of, I don't know, 10 years? I'd say maybe it's 10 years. Like, of just, like, you know, dipping your foot in and seeing how it goes and seeing what it does. And I think it's so important to, like, take what you want and leave what doesn't suit you. I think that is the ultimate thing, rather than just saying, like, yes, I love it, or no, I hate it, and being really polarized about it. I think it's important to just, like, sit somewhere in the middle. I also think that you get to choose how you want to approach manifestation, because, for example, Year of Clarity, which, if you're in it, amazing, and if you're not, it's like my strategic plan and 12-month program that we do every year. That is very strategy based. It's very, like, factual. It's very, like, reflection, and some people would say it's like it's on a spreadsheet and it's very kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say it's masculine energy, but some of it is masculine based energy. We try and add the way that we go through it and the way that the sessions are run adds a feminine energy to it, but there is a kind of like masculine energy vibe to it, right? But what I would say is, I think Year of Clarity is actually a manifestation program to some degree, in the sense of the whole thing is run on the basis of, we look at the beginning of the year, we do a big day together, and people vision board and they think about what they want and they think about how their business needs to change and what their dream life is. And we kind of do this kind of process of shifting. And then every single month, people are reflecting on the month previous and then planning for the month ahead and their goal setting. And I would say that the way that it's ran to some degree is this is a small basis of manifestation, because it's helping people get into that point of reflection, understanding where they are, taking a moment to pause, then looking ahead, goal setting, then figuring out the actual strategy they need to achieve that goal. In my mind, that is a version of manifestation. It might not be a traditional one, but it is a very interesting one for people to start doing, because it helps them to get into the habit of being open to the idea of, what do I want and how can I make that happen? And again, I'm not saying that that's like going to be something we market, and I'm not going to say it's a manifestation program, because it isn't, in the sense of like, we're not teaching people to manifest. But when I see people have fantastic results with Year of Clarity, and people will say, we've hit everything off the goal board. Like sometimes, like last year, someone came and said, I've hit every single thing on that goal board. And when I made that vision board, goal board thing, I didn't think that that would be possible. So much of that is hard work. So much of that is graft. So much of it is this constant monthly check-in. But I do also believe that some of it is like, how connected do they stay to the vision, and how much does it help them just sit in that energy of, it's going to come to me and this is going to happen. And so it excites me in terms of Year of Clarity, of like, where does the joy of that come to? Like, what are we manifesting, and how does that sit in a real traditional business strategy program? I think it's kind of interesting. I thought I'd share with you what I'm hoping to manifest in the future / this year. So I haven't prepared. I should have really thought about this. God, I should have wrote some things down. What am I hoping to manifest in the future / this year? There's a certain handbag that I want eventually, not anytime soon, but there's a certain handbag that I'm definitely manifesting and have been manifesting for years, and I feel like I'm still, it's like in the background, it's like mulling away. My wedding and my honeymoon, or whatever that's going to look like, I think is 100% a manifestation, because that is something I have thought about for so many years, and then I had the rug tucked underneath me in terms of my mum dying, and that's really like changed so many of my wedding thoughts and plans and desires. And so I'm now having to kind of like with a pair of us, so like reshape and what that means and what does that look like and what do we want. But I kind of feel like my whole experience in that will definitely be a kind of manifestation in itself. What else am I hoping to manifest this year? Oh, that's it. There's like clients and community. So community, I am like, it's not clear enough in my head yet, which is why it hasn't happened, I believe anyway. There's a certain like type of person that I want to bring into my business community, like the May James community, the Honest Business community, the CEO Edit community, and that's definitely something I'm still working on, still like in process. That's what I mean. Like, none of this is definitive, right? Like, I'm sat here saying there's things in my life and in the business that like are just still mulling over in my head, that I haven't got a full clear like, yes, that's what I'm manifesting, which I think is really interesting. And then like certain client work that is like a slight shift or a slight change, or like a certain just like movement. There's certain things where I'm like, it's subtle, but it's like manifestations that are good. I've never mentioned my ring is definitely my engagement ring is 100% a manifestation. That is bizarre. Again, I'm not going to share that story. I might one day, but that is nuts as well. Like, my engagement ring 100% was a manifestation. So yeah, there's so much to manifest. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I want to share about what we're manifesting this year in the future? I don't know. Peace. Oh God, I wish we could just manifest peace in the world, but I don't think that one quite happens, does it, sadly? But yeah, that would be my hope for the bloody world, that everyone can be at peace and healthy and safe and not at risk of goodness knows what. But we're not going to try and bring that energy down into this episode. Sorry. Some people are going to be like, no, don't start talking about that. But I hope this episode has kind of encouraged you to think about manifestation, to think about what that means to you. What does the word mean? Are you going to learn more about it? It's definitely something that I'm open to do more work around and learning from incredible minds, and leaning into more, because I really believe that it's real and it's a part of what we do every day, and it's been going on for centuries and generations. Like, I think that's the other thing. People need to remember that this is not new. And I think once I started to hear the history of it, I then started to really grapple with, my goodness, this is a bloody amazing thing. And I think the other thing is, right, it's a tool. It's just another tool in your toolbox that you can use to aid your success. And if you're looking at it from a business thing, I really think that's important. You think about, right, I've got manifestation as a tool to help me get there. And if something isn't happening in your business and you feel like you've got all the strategy there and you're like, I'm doing all this stuff and it's just not working, and it's the right strategy and it's the right pieces, I do sometimes think, like, have a look at your energy work, have a look at your manifestation, have a look at your nervous system regulation, have a look at your leadership. And there's all things that, stem further out of that than sort of core manifestation. But really think about, where are you coming at this from an energetic perspective? And is that going to suggest, can you shift that and can you change that to kind of move you further towards your goals, or to what you're trying to achieve? I just wanted to end the episode with 2 recommendations of people that you might want to follow, that you might want to look at if you are like actually quite interested in this and you're now like, do you know what, May? Fair enough. Let's have a bit of a, maybe I should have a look at it. So I've got 2 recommendations. I mean, there's thousands of people that do this stuff and there's amazing people who do this work, but there's 2 that I just think are interesting, especially if you are like me and are quite like skeptical, you like real people, you just want like straight talk, and you want, like, you don't want necessarily, you might not resonate with someone who's very sort of in a certain space. So the 2 people are, one person is an amazing previous client, friend, she's absolutely incredible, called Vic, which many people know, Victoria Jackson, from the Manifestation Collective. So Vic is absolutely amazing. Some of the things she's manifested in her life are wild and are amazing. She runs an amazing membership called the Manifestation Collective. She also does coaching. She has like various different bundles and things. I'm not getting commission or anything. I'm just literally shouting because she's fantastic and she changes people's lives, and she is very normal. She's a fantastic podcast. Actually, go and listen to her podcast and go and look at her website. Like, she just has a really fab space on the internet and will really help you to get into manifestation if you're literally like, I have no clue what this is all about. She also has an amazing book, which is about how to start manifesting. So that could be a good option for you. But just go and check her out in general, because she is amazing and she is a dear friend, but she is also just a phenomenal professional at what she does, and really helps make it accessible for people and really helps people feel like that they get it, like it's for them. It doesn't feel like this elitist or exclusive or like certain thing for certain person. And then the other person that I potentially recommend is Jamie C Official. So that's her Instagram, and she has a business called The Rising Wolf, I think. I don't know Jamie, but I think she has a really interesting way of bringing business and strategy, and she just talks about manifesting, but I think in a way that will be useful if you are someone who has come off this and you're kind of new to it and you're sort of like trying to find your way with it and what it means. She's a kind of interesting follow. But as I say, I mean, there's so many books out there, there's so many resources, but especially if you're into business, those are the 2 that I'd kind of suggest and to have a look at. So I think this is an interesting topic. Feel free to come and let me know, what's your thoughts on manifesting. Do you manifest all the time? Am I doing something wrong? Some of you are probably going to be like, you're doing this all wrong, this is what you need to be doing. But go, tell me what your thoughts are. What have you manifested? I love hearing what people have manifested in their life. And if this episode was completely random for you and you're like, my goodness, this is not what I tune in at the Honest Business Podcast for, no problem. I'll be back next week with a different one. But I think if you've made it this far, you must have some kind of curiosity and interest, and you must think, actually, I'm going to see what this can do for my life and business. Take care. I will see you next week. Feel free to go back and listen to some of the other episodes in the back catalogue, because we have many now. There's over 100. And I will speak to you soon. Bye.